Hello, my name is Jimmy Vegas and welcome to this, the 14th in a series of video tutorials on how to create a Super Mario game in Unity 5. So this episode, we're going to be doing quite a bit. So firstly, we're going to be looking at setting up a live system. We're going to set up a game over screen and we're also going to set up a main menu. Now the reason we're doing all this together is because these all kind of link together, i.e. once you die forever, you get your game over screen and head back to the main menu. So that's why we need to do all these three things in one go. So firstly, let's head to our main scene. So let's load up level 01. And let's set up a little bit of GUI. So game object, UI, text, and I'm going to right click, rename, and life tag, I'm going to call it. And I'm just going to put this as lives. Quickly change it to white. I'm not going to do anything too fancy here. I'm going to anchor it to the top left there. Let's put it into position. So we want 0, 0. And, ooh, what's happened there? Oh, I know what that is. We put the random junk in there. I remember that. That's fine. So yeah, that's fine. So what we'll do is we'll put this life tag under here. So if we put this down into position about there, let's increase the size. What size do we have that? We have that as 22. So let's put our life tag as 22 as well. Let's have that as bold. And I'm going to use this tool here just to align it just there. Let's decrease the size. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is Control D to duplicate it. And I'm going to drag it to about there and put that as 3. Right click, rename, and let's have this as lives display. Okay, so next what we need to do is we need to head into scripts and we need to create a script which will hold however many lives we have. So right click, create JavaScript, and let's call this global lives. So open up in Visual Studio or MonoDevelop, whichever one you have. So this script is going to contain 3 variables. One of them is going to be a static one because we need to access it from other scripts. For example, our death script for 1. So once it's opened, which it's doing very slowly for me, we'll get started. So the static variable is going to be the lives amount that we have. This is the most important one of all because this is the one that will keep track in our entire game of however many lives we have at any given time. And as you know, it is very important in a Super Mario game. So let's start by deleting everything we have and start with static var, and let's call it lives amount, and it's going to be an int, an integer. Next thing, we need to have an internal version of that same one. So var internal lives int again. And the last one is going to be a game object, which is going to be the text box that we've just created. So var life text box, that will be game object. Okay, so the function we're going to use is going to be an update because we need this to constantly monitor what's going on. So function update, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and first things first, we need to make the internal lives the same as the lives amount. So internal oops, no space there, internal lives equals lives amount, semicolon. And what we'll do up here is we'll actually state here how many lives we're going to have. So we'll start with 3, just to make things nice and simple. Next thing we need to do in this update is we need to constantly monitor what's in our text box. So we'll do life text box dot get component dot open spiky bracket text close spiky bracket open close bracket dot text equals double quote. So we need to always have that, if you remember, always needs to be in there if you're having a variable as displaying in a text box. plus internal lives, semicolon. I'm going to go down a couple of lines because we may add a couple more lines in there at some point later on this tutorial, and save. So let's head back to Unity and go to Game Object, Create Empty, right click, rename, and we'll have this as Life Monitor. And then we just drag and drop the global live script onto Life Monitor. And we need to drag and drop the text box for lives display right there. So let's change our live display. Currently says 3. Let's change it to 0. And we should see when we press play that our lives will automatically change to 3. You can just about see it there. So what I might do actually is quickly change the color of our lives display and the life tag so we can see them a little bit more clearer. Let's change them to a kind of a grey color about there. Let's see if that displays a little better. Okay, so we can see that a little bit better for now. Now, ideally what you could do is rather than use the life tag text, you could use maybe a sprite of Mario's face or something to display however many lives you have. So once we've got our global live script set up, what we need to do then is we need to go to our death script, which is somewhere in here, and I believe it should be this one. So what we need to do on this one is we need to add one extra line in here. Do not send. Let's load that up again. So we need to add one extra line in here, which will tell us, or rather tell the global live script, that you need to subtract a life because we've died. So if we open up, and you can put it pretty much anywhere within the script itself. I don't think it really matters too much, but I'm going to put it, in fact, I'm going to put it as the first line. So what we need to do is global lives dot lives amount minus equals 1, semicolon, and save. So now what this should do is hopefully when we press play, once Unity's had a little think down here. So if we now head over to the hole where we've set up the death script, all the way over here, and kill ourselves, we should now have 2 lives, and we do, which is exactly what we want. So far, our global live script is working just fine. So next thing we need to do is we need to add a new scene. So let's save the scene we're in, Control S. Let's go to File, New Scene. And I'm going to make this real simple. I'm not going to go into too much detail about making a game over screen. So I'm just going to have a raw image, stretch it, zero out everything just so it's full screen, have it black, and I'm going to go Game Objects, UI, Text, have it center. I'm just going to have it say Game Over. Let's have it in red, I think, just for some effect. Change the font size to 60, maybe. Let's increase the size right there. And let's get it in the center. Okay, there we go. So there's our very, very simple game over screen. So let's File, Save Scene, and that's Game Over. So in this game over screen, what we need to do is we need to make a script which, after a couple of seconds, takes us back to the main menu. So now we haven't created a main menu just yet, so let's get creating one. So let's File, New Scene, and I'm going to go real simple again. So I'm going to go Game Object, UI, Raw Image. I'm going to stretch the whole way. I'm going to zero everything out. Change it to a kind of a dark red, maybe. And quick Game Object, UI, Text, and let's have Jimmy's Super Mario Clone. And I'm going to put it in the middle at the top. So let's anchor it to the top. Now, obviously, you can have whatever you want there. You can take the time and effort to go into as much detail as you want here. I'm just doing it quickly to show you how we would create a main menu. So I'm going to have that there. So next thing we need to do is let's add in a couple of buttons. So game object, UI, and let's have button. Now this is the first time we've done a button in this this tutorial series. So I'm going to go a little bit slower here just to teach you a few things about the button. So if you click here on the button, on the arrow, and go to text, you can put here whatever you want the button to say. So I'm going to put play. Let's increase it a little bit. Let's have it as 24. That looks fine. And the button itself, you can customize just here with all these different little things to play around with. So let's have that as maybe a grey colour. That looks fine. The highlighter colour, let's have as bright red maybe. So if we press play, you can see that our button that says play is currently grey, but when we hover over it, it turns red. Take off, turns grey again. So you can take a little bit of time just to customize your button a little bit. You can play around with a few things here. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want this tutorial to run on for too long. So I'm going to right click, rename, and call this play button. And I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to change the text to quit. Right click and rename the button to quit button. And then let's drag it down just there. So now we have a play and quit button nicely placed in our main menu. So in the scripts, I'm going to right click, create a folder, and call this menu scripts. And in here, I'm going to right click and create a new script. And let's call this menu buttons. So before we go any further, we need to do one thing. We need to go to File. Once it's had a little think there, go to File and Build Settings. And we need to add this scene to our build settings. So if you remember, we've previously done this when we've done our preload of level 1. So we need to go to add open scene. Oops. In fact, I think we may need to save our scene first. Save, and we'll have main menu. So let's go back to build settings and add in the main menu. So add open scenes. Now let's remember at this point that preload of level 1 is currently marked as 0. So we'll need to remember that in this next script. So let's go into our menu button. And we're going to create two functions of our own in this script. They're going to be our own customized function. So let's have function play. So have that as capital P. Play game, open close bracket, and open curly bracket. And here, all we need to put is application dot load level, and in brackets 0. So that'll take us to the first level. And then close curly bracket. Next thing, let's do the quit game function. So all we need to do for that is, and you've probably guessed it by now, we just need to put in function quit game, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and that's application dot quit, open close bracket, semicolon, and close curly bracket, and save the script. So now we need to put our script into this game, into this scene, I should say. So we need to go to game object and go to create empty, right click, rename, and have this as button scripts. And you probably guessed it, drag and drop the script onto there. So now we've done that, what we need to do is set our buttons to actually function correctly. So if you click on your play button and scroll down in the inspector, you've got on click list empty. You just need to click on the plus button there. Drag and drop the button scripts into this little box here. And this second list box should light up. currently should say no function. So if you click on it, click on menu buttons, which is the script we wrote, and we need to click on play game. So all this has done is it's said to itself, when we click on the play game button, we will run the script play game that we've written in menu buttons. So then same applies to quit button. Press plus, drag and drop, and change this into menu buttons into quit game. And let's save that scene. So one thing to note when we press play, the quit button won't actually work unless the game itself is built. The reason being is that it can't quit out of the Unity editor that we are in, so that won't actually work. But rest assured, when you build it, it does work. So the play button, if we click this now, should take us to level 1. And it does. That's exactly what we wanted. So now we've got our main menu done, we can head back to our game over screen, File, Build Settings, and Add Open Scenes. So now scene 3 over here is our game over screen. So next thing we need to do is we need to create a script in the game over screen, which will then take us to the main menu after a certain amount of time. So let's head to our Death Scripts folder, right click, create, script, and let's have game over to menu. So in this one, what we need to do is we need a function that's going to allow us to use the yield wait for second line, or wait for seconds, I should say, plural. So that's going to have to be function start. Open close bracket, open curly bracket. Now the way we're going to do this is this script needs to wait for a couple of seconds, and then it needs to reset our lives back to 3, and then it needs to take us to the menu. So yield wait for seconds. Let's have this as 4 seconds. Semicolon. Next, we need to reference our global lives script. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do in the meantime. I'm going to get rid of some of these scripts. I've got quite a lot open and I'm not happy about that. So global lives dot lives amount. I'm going to put plus equals 3. So the reason that will kind of reset our lives is because we only ever get this game over script if our lives equals 0, or rather it will do when we've written that part of the script. So after that, what we need to do is application dot load level, and in brackets it should be 2, and then semicolon and close curly bracket and save. So before we do anything else, let's double check that number 2 is our main menu. So file, build settings, main menu is number 2. So now we need to make this script appear in the scene. So game object, create empty, right click, rename, game over script. And we need to drag and drop this script onto here. So straight on there. We don't need to set any variables, it's all automatic. So let's quickly give that one a go. So we press play, and we should wait for 4 seconds, and it should take us to the main menu, and it does. So then we can click on play, and we'll end up back here in the first level. So now, one thing to note, because we ended up, and you may have noticed if you've done that exactly the same as me, you would have had 6 lives at that point. That's because we started on the game over screen. Obviously, you don't start on the game over screen when you're starting a new game. So let's make everything go full circle now. So let's head back to our first level. Let's save any changes we've made. So what we need to do now is here we also need to modify our script in Death Scripts. In fact, no, we won't do that. We'll do global. We'll do it in global lives, I think. Global lives will probably be the easiest thing to do, because that's why we've left a few lines of code. So we'll do an if statement. So if, and we'll have internal lives equals 0. If I put double equal 0, then we need to go to application dot load level, and it's going to be 3, which was our game over scene, and save. So now if we press play, let's try and make this whole thing go full circle. So we've got our 3 lives. We're going over here. So let's die for the first time. Okay, so now we have 2 lives. Game takes us back to the start. So we go all the way over again. Let's die once again. And now we have 1 life. So all the way. Now hopefully this should work. So we'll die. So we've got game over there. So that has taken us to the game over screen, but it's a little bit premature. So what we'll do is we'll quickly modify that, because in our death we have yield wait for 3 seconds. So if we take that, wait for 3 seconds, copy, and let's have, after the if statement for internal lives, let's have that as 2.9. So rather than go through the whole thing again, all that will do is it will delay it for 2.9 seconds while we die, and then take us to the game over screen, which will take us back to the main menu. So there we have everything going full circle. So next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to build up some more of this level with some new textures and whatnot. And we'll also freeze our player when they fall down the hole and die. Because if you noticed in this episode a couple of times, the camera kept panning along even though we died. So we'll stop that next time as well. And we'll also look at the enemy killing us when we touch it rather than stomp on it. So until the next episode, thank you very much for watching. Sorry guys, quick little addition at the end. I spotted it after I actually stopped recording, literally the second after. In our global live script, we had one little problem with it. When it cuts to the game over screen straight away, we tried adding in a yield wait for seconds. It will actually fail if we do this here. So if you cut this out and put it in a new function, so we'll call it function game over scene, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and paste them 2 in there, and then close curly bracket, and in the if statement just put game over scene, open close bracket, semicolon. I'm not going to save it just yet. I'll show you what I mean. In the console you may get an error saying update cannot be a coroutine. That is essentially this. So we can't have a yield wait for seconds in update. So if we save that now, head back to Unity, and that will clear this error right there after it's had a little think, obviously. There we go. So now it should work. So sorry about that. As I say, I only spotted it after I actually ended the tutorial.